think it's time that you and I have a heart-to-heart about Google Fi. We're going to talk about what Google Fi is, at least according to the website, link in the description by the way, and we're going to talk about why I'm here to talk about it. But first, do me a favor, like, subscribe, it'll be just below here, so you can get more of my content when I do put it out. And I do put it out, it's just, irregular. So, Google Fi is a plan that works for you. You can go unlimited or pay for the data you use. Sounds good so far. Fi gives you great coverage coast to coast. With a phone designed for Fi, you'll get even better coverage. And we're going to talk about that. As it intelligently switches between networks and secure Wi-Fi connections. And all plans include 5G nationwide. And for the record, I live in the USA, so your mileage may vary. So Jordan, why the hell are you talking about it, you ask? Great question, my fantastic viewers. It's because about 3 months ago now, I switched completely over from one of the big providers to Google Fi. This provider, in fact. And in this time, I've traveled across 4 different states, all in the center of the states. This would include Kansas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. I've been in both larger cities and in some places where the population doesn't get bigger than about 7,000 people. Myself, or someone traveling with me, has used at least 4 different phones, and after a few months, I have some things I'd like to talk about. So let's get to it. First, let's talk about porting numbers over from Verizon to Google Fi. Getting my numbers from Verizon could have definitely been more of a pain. Now, for the record, it sucked, but notice that I didn't say that it could have not been more of a pain, because Verizon absolutely could have made it more of a pain. But once I got the ball rolling with Verizon, on the Google side of things, it was just a straight breeze. I simply followed the instructions that I was presented with, and bam, my numbers were ported over to my new phone, and even my daughter, who uses the iPhone 11, this one, was able to hang on to her number as well. Speaking of my daughter's iPhone, let's talk about my experience with setting up the service on her phone, because no, it is not plug and play. But once again, if you follow Google's instructions on setting up the service, then you should be good. A few things to note here though. One of the very first steps is selecting an eSIM or a physical SIM. And if you do not choose the correct one, in my daughter's case it was the eSIM, then you will get all the way to the end of the setup process and it just won't work. And you don't really have an indication of why. And this will just piss you off. However, once you do select the correct SIM and go through all of the setup process steps again, you're going to be prompted to go into the cell data menu on the iPhone, where you're going to enter the cell data settings, and after restart, for the love of all that is your sanity, please make sure that you go back into that menu to make sure that all of your settings stay the same. Side note, if your iPhone updates after you've set these settings, make sure to go back into that settings menu to make sure that the settings haven't changed. Because for whatever reason, Apple will change your settings and you will be in the same situation that my daughter was in, and she could not receive photos or videos from Android users, but for whatever reason could receive them from iPhone users. I don't understand, but just make sure to check your settings. Also, side note, make sure that Google is selected as the cell phone service provider, the main provider, because also in my daughter's case, it kept trying to use the Verizon service that was no longer a thing. So just make sure. In case you're wondering, the phones that I have on my plan are an iPhone 11, a Pixel 6, 2 Pixel 5a's, and every now and again, I do like to swap my SIM into my Note 20 Ultra here. I just happen to like this phone, and it's fun to tinker with both phones. So this brings me to the service and the tower switching. In the city I live in, the service just seems to be phenomenal. In fact, it's even beating out Big Red here sometimes when it comes to data and internet speeds. Call quality seems great across all the phones that I've mentioned. All messages work back and forth between myself and anybody else who I message. And the iPhone has zero issues. In fact, it even has better service in a couple of areas that my 5A or my wife's Pixel 6 just struggle in. Which brings me to my next point. Google. Why is it that your built for Fi phone seemed to struggle in areas that the not built for Fi Note 20 didn't? Hell, even my daughter's phone did not struggle in these areas. And to be clear, these areas were rare. I can only pin it down to just one specific area, but multiple times I could repeat the process of both the Pixel 6 and the 5A struggling with service, while the Note and the iPhone didn't. Like, this is an honest question. Like, just, why? What's going on here? Is it because the Note and the iPhone just happen to be running on Verizon towers? Or is it that the Pixel phones just aren't that good? Or is the tower switching not working? I don't really know. I'm just curious. And this only happening in one spot, for me, doesn't hold that much of a problem. But you never know. Now, that being said, my wife and I went to Bonnaroo. Bonnaroo! And at this location, when I had Verizon, it was terrible. That being said, Google Fi killed it. I'm talking great, if not incredible internet speeds, and full bars, baby. Calls and texts all came through, and even in a sort of emergency situation surrounded by thousands of people, my wife was able to handle said situation. And it was a nice treat to go into Bonnaroo expecting literally the worst possible service and absolutely being handed a great service. It was just amazing. So thank you for that. What about Fi customer support, you ask? Well, getting in touch with a representative was cake. For the record, I did not call anybody. All I used was the application, the Google Fi application, to get in touch with a representative, and we just texted back and forth. I had to do this 3 separate occasions. Once because of the iPhone problem that I mentioned before, and twice because of broken screens, once on the 5A and also on the Pixel 6. However, one of those devices does not live in a larger city. And so in my brother's case with his broken screen, he had to drive 80 miles and deal with a 2-hour wait to get his phone fixed. In my brother's case, that wasn't too much of a problem, but it might be a problem for you, so it's just something to think about. And also, something to think about. If you were in my brother's shoes, he dropped his phone and his screen just stopped working. So how would he get in touch with a representative? I mean, in his case, all he had to say was, hey, these guys, call Jordan. His phone did what it was told and wound up calling me, and I'm the one who got in touch with a representative to get everything fixed for him. But what happens if you are not in the situation my brother was? Like, how are you supposed to get a hold of a representative if you don't have, say, another computer or a phone that you can get a hold of? I'm sure there's ways around it, but it is just something that I think you should think about. So let's talk about the things that really matters. Price. In my case, this is what made me take the leap from working with Verizon to Google Fi. And when I was with Verizon, my phone bill at its highest was $385. That is just insane. That is like getting into buying a car sort of levels. That's just too much money. And my plan had, the works. I had 4 people on it. I was buying off several phones, and I had unlimited data. And for the record, my unlimited data was something I started 9 years or so ago. So I kind of got in when it was, cheap. Well, cheaper than it is today, that is. Even when all of my phones were still paid off, it was still a $285 phone bill for a phone bill. This is insane, and it is something that I don't think anybody should have to put up with. And I don't know why I did for so long. Because right now, I'm paying off 3 phones, unlimited data, and I have 4 people on my service plan, and I'm paying $162. That's for everything. All of it. Yeah, this is a reduction of $223 from my highest bill. Or hell, you can just knock $100 off of that for the not the highest bill, the $285 one, and it is still $123. This is so much money that could be put towards anything like food, groceries, or gas right now. So what's my conclusion? Simple. You should check Google Fi out. And if you're concerned about using the service and not knowing whether you like it, then use the pay-as-you-go thing and just use one of the cell phones that you got around collecting dust. I mean, I have 3, and I'm sure you do too. Now, I'm not saying that this service is for everybody, but I am saying that everybody should give it a damn hard look. And you should give it a damn hard look at the like and subscribe button down below. I do put out content. It is random, but that's just the way I do it. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.